Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my March reading wrap-up and my April TBR, so stay tuned. We've got a bunch to dive into. So first, in March, I read 3 novels, 3 novellas, 1 collection, 1 essay, 1 graphic novel, and 4 short stories. That's a lot of reading. One of those was an audiobook. 5 were digital, 1 was an immersion read, and 1 was a physical read. 3 were 5 stars, 4 were 4 stars, and 1 was a 3.5 star. Now let's just dive right into all the stuff that I read. I'm going to do really quick recaps of what I've read. Some will have quotes with it, some won't. But let's just dive right in because as you can see, there was a lot that I read. First up is our Joan Didion essay of the month. This was Doris Lessing, and this essay reminded me that I still need to read The Golden Notebook. The first time I read this essay, I really wanted to read The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing, and I still, on my reread of this essay, have not read that. So it's a reminder that I still need to read that. Next up, we have The Dark Heart of Ilmore by Cara N. Delaney. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is a supernatural mystery and I loved it. I ate it up. I read this after I DNF'd 2 novellas for the Sphinx Championship Series, and then this was the next one up, and I loved it. It was like a breath of fresh air and it was so well done. Next up, we have War Cry by Jim Butcher. This was a Dresden Files graphic novel, and y'all, the graphic novel was the perfect format for this story. I loved it. We've got Dragon Meat by Angela Board. This one is another Sphinx novella, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars also. I loved our main character's voice in this, and I have one quote that is just beautiful. It's from the very beginning of the book. I think it's like the first page or 2 of the novella, and the quote says, "Dragon meat tastes like the sky, like an empty sea with nothing between you and the horizon, like the wind lifting you up and setting you soaring. Dragon meat tastes like freedom." I just loved that quote. It was so poetic, so beautiful, and it made me want to dive right into the rest of that novella. After that, we had a Dresden short story, Something Borrowed by Jim Butcher. This is essentially Dresden is the best man at a werewolf wedding, and no more needs to be said about that. It was absolutely fantastic. We had all sorts of chaos happening in this, and I loved it. After that, we had another short read in the last novella for the Sphinx Championship Series. That is Black Cap by Benjamin Averin. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars also. This was a dark fantasy mystery, and I just felt like it just was good, but it wasn't great. It just felt kind of mediocre to me. After that, I finished The Children of the Black Moon by Joseph John Lee, which is book 2 in the Gunslingers and Spellbinders series. I might have mixed those 2 words in order, but you know what I'm talking about. This one was another 4-star read for me. I really liked it, but it didn't give me that emotional impact that I got in book 1 that I was looking for again in this book, so it was a 4-star read for me. One quote for you all: "The family of choice is sometimes just as important as the family of blood." This quote was repeated several times throughout the book and is a main theme of the entire book. A short story for you all, Dr. H.A. Moynihan by Lucia Berlin. This is from the collection A Manual for Cleaning Women, and this is basically a short story about a kid who is helping his grandpa in the dental office during summer vacation. It was a weird one. It was very graphic and vivid in details, and I don't recommend if you're squeamish. Next up, I finished finally the Jane Austen Audible collection. This was absolutely fantastic. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This was a great way to re-experience Jane Austen's novels. It included Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. It had narrators like Emma Thompson, Billy Piper, and It was just so much fun. After that, I finished Seekers by Troy Knowlton. This one I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was good, but I expected more from it, but I did get one quote. I have one quote for you all. No wise remarks or thoughtful advice could cut through the hopeless, horrifying truth of morality. Only a couple books left for March. How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I read the arc from NetGalley for this, and I'm so glad that I did. This book was so much fun. It's advertised for fans of Knives Out and the Thursday Murder Club, and that is spot on for this book. I loved everything about it. Another short story, How to Bring Someone Back from the Dead by Veronica Shanos. This is from the collection Burning Girls and Other Stories, and one quote for you all that I absolutely loved. You must always wear bright colors when you go to the underworld, and that just makes me want to wear bright colors all the time. And then the last book that I finished in March is A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross. This is book 2 and the last book in the Elements of Cadence duology. I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. For a long time, it felt like a 4.5 star read for me because there was kind of 2 different storylines going on, but the way that it wrapped up completely sold it as a 5-star read for me. I love that series so much, and stay tuned because I'm going to have a series review for that coming very soon. And one quote from that book for you all. Jack felt the edge of his mortality, and that feels like one of the main themes in this book is mortality and being on the edge of that and being able to know that's where you're at. And then to finish up March, I had one last short story. That's the title short story from Exhalation, and that is Exhalation by Ted Chiang. And this is a short story about life's biggest questions. What is life? What drives life? What happens to our memories when we die? All of those big life questions Ted Chiang tackles with science fiction in this fantastic short story. One quote from here: the universe began as an enormous breath being held. I loved it so much. So now let's talk about my carryovers, because in the month of April, which is my birthday month, by the way, so I'm very excited for this month, I have 2 categories of carryovers. First, we have the books that I started in March and didn't quite finish before April came around. The Legion of the Lost by Joseph John Lee, which is the arc for book 3 in the Spellbinders and Gunslingers series. This is the final book in that series. I am loving it, and I can't wait to see how it all wraps up. Proven Guilty by Jim Butcher. This is book 8 in the Dresden series, and of course, I'm loving it. Dresden is getting himself into so much trouble, and I can't wait to see how this one wraps up. Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. This was my patron pick for March. I'm buddy reading it with Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative, and this was the surprise of the month for me. Maybe even the surprise of the year. We'll see how the rest of the year goes. This is a romance book about 2 serial killers, and y'all, I'm actually loving this so much. We get such humor and sensibility from these 2 characters. I just love it. It is your definition of a slow burn. This takes place over like periods of years, really, and I love how Weaver is slowly building this romance up. I am eating this book up. We've got Becky Lynch, The Man, Not Your Average Girl. This is the memoir written by one of my all-time favorite WWE superstars. That's Becky Lynch, of course, and I am doing an immersion read with this, with the audiobook that Becky narrates herself. I am loving it. And then the last book that I have started in March but did not yet finish is Towers of Midnight by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan. This is the second to the last book in the Wheel of Time series, and I am ready to see where this book is going. I am very early still in the book and not quite liking it as much as The Gathering Storm, but ready to see where it goes. So that brings up my second category of carryovers from March. and that is 2 books that I was supposed to start in March but didn't quite get to. A Memory of Light, the Wheel of Time finale, the last book in the Wheel of Time series. I might be able to start that in April. We'll see. Fingers crossed April goes well for me. And Becoming a Druid by Mike Mullman, and this one, it was my self-pub pick for March and it's carrying over into April. I can't wait to read these novels by Mike Mullman because I helped edit some novellas for him in the same universe, and I loved these characters so much, so I can't wait to see them in full novel form. And that leads me into my full April TBR. Now, a note before I talk about my April TBR. This is supposedly shorter than the other TBRs. I mean, when you look at it, it is visibly shorter, and that is for 2 reasons. First and foremost, April is a crazy hectic month for me with work. We've got lots of events. We've got reunions coming up where I'll have to work like all weekend, so I'm gonna have less time to read during the month of April. But also, from April going forward, for the rest of the year, as much as I can help myself, I'm trying to do smaller TBRs, less scheduled reads, to build in room for impulse reads, for books that I see sitting on my shelf that have been staring at me this whole time that I just have to get to. I'm dying to get to, but also room for catching up on past TBRs that I haven't finished yet. So hopefully this shorter TBR will allow for more additions towards the end of the month. But the books that I do have scheduled for April include Owl's Motel by Barb Avon. This is a horror novella, and I am really excited about this. I've become, I feel like, good friends with Barb on social media. She is an indie author, and she's gone through such a ringer in the past 2 years. She's lost both her husband and her father, and she was having a really hard time, and we kind of became friends through her grief and, just trying to bring light to her days. And I told her that in 2024, I was going to add at least one of her books to my reading list, and so April has become that month. Owl's Motel, the horror novella about a typewriter that makes things come to life. I'm so excited for this novella. I can't wait to jump into it. We also have another indie self-pub author, JCM Byrne. I'm returning to the Hybrid Helix, Book 2, Return of the Griffin. I will get that done in April. I will continue my Hybrid Helix journey, and I can't wait to see what Rohan gets up to in this book. After that, I've got an arc from NetGalley for Dad Camp by Evan S. Porter. This is a comedy book about a father-daughter week at camp. A dad is desperate to grasp onto his daughter who's getting older. She's in like those very early teenage years now where she's starting to slip away, and he's trying to hold on. So he takes her to this dad camp, this father-daughter camp, and y'all, I'm so excited for this book. It sounds like such a good time. I can't wait. The book actually releases in June, so if I can get it done in April, I'll be way ahead of the game, and so excited for that. Just a couple more books on my TBR. White Knight by Jim Butcher. This is the next book in the Dresden series, book 9. I can't wait to read this. I got the physical copy, hardcover copy from McKay's like months ago, and has been staring at me on my bookshelf ever since, and I can't wait to dive into that. We'll have my patron pick. Megan is the patron of the month for April, and I only just spun it this morning, so I'm waiting to hear what Megan's decision is, and we'll see what book Megan adds to the TBR. And then, of course, the last thing on our TBR is our Joan Didion essay of the month. This is titled Georgia O'Keeffe, and I'm just actually read this essay before I filmed this, and it has reminded me of the awe that I have when I look at Georgia O'Keeffe paintings, especially in person at museums. I love it. The other things that will be added to this TBR, of course, are my short stories that I read for Short Story Sunday. Those will be announced every Sunday as I get to them. So that is my March reading wrap up, my April TBR. Let me know in the comments below what was your favorite reading moment from March and what are you looking forward to reading the most in April. I think I am looking forward to reading, honestly, all of my April TBR. I'm so excited for. I can't pick just one because I'm excited for them for very different reasons. So that's it for now. I think I already said that, but we'll say it again. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.